Fucking A. All
General
right.
annoyance.
Yeah, right. All right, y'all. I don't even know how else to start this, but for those of you guys that were in stream, I'm sorry. I know we were starting late. I got the blue screen of death, and then Skype decided not to work, and then it decided it needed an update, and then my computer decided to run slow. Then I had to restart it 3 times, and then I started downloading Curse Client, and finally we're back on Skype. So we are here with episode, I believe, 9 to the 7. Oh, and I'm UB, by the
Ew.
way. And that guy, B.
What up, guys? It's HB coming in hot here with the real hot, steamy, and annoyed UB.
And it fits in with the general annoyance topic for the cast. But before we get to the things that annoy us, we got to call out some good things, aka the shout outs. So, Buns, what you got?
Uh, Damn it, UB. You put me in this spot all the time.
All right, I'll go first then, because I already know what mine's going to be. And you can take the time to think,
I
my
will.
friend.
I have nothing.
All right, I was telling HB about this before the cast started, but I've recently started seeing somebody new, and she is a gamer, and her friends are gamers, and oddly enough, her sister's husband is a gamer. And out of all the games that he could be playing, just happens he plays Warcraft. And they're talking, and he's like, "So I hear, dating someone new. Tell me a little bit." And she's like, "Yeah, he's a little bit of a nerd." It's like, all right, I can live with that. It's kind of true if the shoe fits. It's like, yeah, and he does a podcast too. It's about like twinking. I think his site's called like bisnation or something like that. And apparently he's like, "Oh, really? I've watched that before." And so I thought that was really cool, and I want to give it a shout out because he's not like an everyday listener because he doesn't even play Twinks, so I'm not exactly sure that this would be his favorite thing to listen to every week. But actually, his tag, I'm not a huge fan of his tag, but it's X Death X Artist X, I think is what it is. So, 0 points in a...
Very serious. Like,
Yeah, right.
and on one angle, you're talking about death. But he's kind of the artist of death. So, what kind of angle are we coming here? Are we painting death? At the end of the day, that's awesome. I'm glad. What a coincidence.
Yeah,
what a cool,
it's like
what a cool
it's one
full
of
circle
it's
thing.
like what's that? Like it's a small world after all. Well, in this case, it actually is a small world because what the hell are the chances
And
of
while
that
we're talking
happening?
about tags, I really shouldn't talk. My tag's honey buns, so I really have very little room to talk here.
Yeah, but it's named after a tasty treat, bro.
Yeah, or a song that you got the lyrics wrong to. One of the two. One of the two.
We'll go with tasty treat. People can dig through
Yeah.
the archives for the real reason that you got the name Honey
Yeah,
Buns,
yeah.
Sugar Pie.
Okay. I still haven't thought of a shout out. I'm just gonna give a random shout out here. I'm gonna give a shout out to my boy. Oh no. Here, I'll give a shout out.
You're
to
going.
I'll give a shout out to the Horner brothers, Joshua and Benjamin Horner, aka
And that's-
Living Force and Tap Out. We had some great threes going on the other night. We run an RMP, quite a lot of fun. So shout out to the boys there. My Mongo Aussie Cleve, quite a lot of fun the other day. So shout out
Nice.
to the boys there.
I thought you were gonna give a last dish in desperation shout out to LBJ just for his performance so
Oh,
far.
No.
But you know what? I will give the shout out because he deserves it.
Hashtag LBJ. Watch the throne. Watch
Yeah,
the throne.
hashtag MVP. But let's move past basketball. I'm annoyed for reasons completely different than you, but nonetheless, we are both annoyed as fuck. So why don't you get into your Warcraft-related annoyances, and let's get into the meat/potatoes of the cast.
Okay. So, I guess where everything really roots for me is every now and then, I think people go through phases of whatever they're doing. It could be a game, it could be in real life, something they're involved with, a club, a hobby. People go through phases. There's phases where you're riding in it and you're like, man, this is just the life right now. Couldn't imagine what else I'd be doing. And then there's phases where you're like, I could imagine 12 other things I could be doing. I'm kind of like, I'm not at that complete rock bottom spot right now, but I'm definitely on a low curve right now. And for me, why don't we go? The real general thing is that for me, the only reason why I continue playing World of Warcraft at this point is because of the 19 bracket. I wouldn't play World of Warcraft if it wasn't for 19s. That's
But
it.
you know what? I just real quick when you say that, it seems
Mhm.
like that's kind of like for a lot of twinks. It's like, well, duh.
True. But I mean, for
So
people listening, that might be. For someone that's in the bracket, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I can understand where that's coming from." But from an outside point of view, it might be like, "Whoa,
that's
you
yeah,
are
that's
pretty
actually
devoted to your one bracket." Like
that is a
that's
fair point. Like someone like X Death X artist X could be listening and be like, "Wait, that's all you do in this game?" It's like, well, yeah, it's the only thing I find fun.
yeah. I mean, and it's for me, I've always been. It's more about the community and more about are things competitive? Is the meta fun? How's everything looking out? And right now, we're kind of going through a low curve right now in the bracket for multiple reasons, and maybe that's where I'm going to start here.
Okay.
So one of the biggest things right now, and I've definitely caught some heat from this. I've got people annoyed with me personally, but let's walk through it here. Is right now there's faction imbalance again.
That seems to be such a pervasive problem in the 19 bracket.
And to me, part of me wants to say that this was kind of expected, but for an odd reason. I mean, we're coming up to the Twin Cup, and a lot of guilds right now are favoring Horde.
Mm-hmm.
And since a lot of the serious teams, there's a lot of pre-made practice going in, there's a lot of serious teams right now. They're like, hey, you know what? We got a month and a half left, guys. We got to see who can get over to the other faction. We want to start getting practicing on that faction that we want to play.
Mm-hmm.
But that has an effect on the overall bracket. And because there's quite a lot of the guilds on Horde now, including Skill Ratio, Harvest, JCM, quite a lot of, Harvest and JCM used to be on Alliance. Both those guilds have moved over. It's had an impact on the games right now. And right now as well, too, a lot of the guys used to queue from EU on Storm Rage. They don't queue as much, except for... They do, but not as frequently as when they first came over from EU. So that population has also kind of diminished as well. So there's really kind of, besides this underground team Rula that's kind of come up out of nowhere because of the lack of Alliance, there's really not that many people in Alliance right now. And I think that that's the stem of everything, is that the games are just not very competitive because there's no one on the other side who consistently say, oh, these guys are going to step up and they'll have some people queuing.
Well, it's weird, too, because it's like, normally when something like this happens, the very easy and obvious suggestion is, well, why don't you guys just play your tunes on the other faction, or if you don't have them, make an alternate faction tune. But with the Twink Cup looming and people needing to work on synergy, figure out who they want to be playing and how those people should be playing, does it make it a little bit more difficult for people to be like, yeah, I know we're supposed to be like getting our 5-man in here, or we're supposed to be queuing with like these 2 people or one other person just to test them out and see how they can play? Like, why send them over? Because in a way, that's kind of debilitating your whole team building process.
Yeah, and I think that it's an issue now that people are seeing afterwards. But this happens frequently. It's just people will always be like, it's a human thing to be like, well, someone else could step up. Someone else is going to be there. But then, here you go, perfect world example where you're playing in a small community bracket and, 2 or 3 guilds move over. Yeah, it's a big impact. Not only are the queue times on Horde now longer, the Alliance, there's just not as many guilds. You're seeing the rogue problem again come out on Alliance because it's just people queuing on their
Really?
own. Yeah.
It's like what's that guy? It's like, just when I think I was out, they pulled me back in. It's like the
Yeah.
rogue problem will never go away.
Nope. And the only thing that was really keeping it at bay is because you did have so many guilds on both factions that were queuing, and people realize if you're queuing with a rogue, yeah, it can help in 5-mans. There's definitely a place for a good rogue in the right comp, but a lot of times you're better off just running a hunter, or you're better off running a warrior or a BM monk. A little more versatile DPS class in the terms of a pug 5-man.
You know what? I want to deviate from this real quick, and if you haven't heard about it and you don't have any thoughts about it, just, blow right by it.
Okay.
I noticed today, sorry, I can't recall the person who created this thread on TI, but in 6.2, Beast Mastery Hunters will be able to tame exotic pets. One pet will give Ancient Hysteria. I believe they said, I think it's a 6-minute cooldown, but it's basically a bloodlust. And just so real quick deviation, do you have any thoughts on how that might impact things going into the Twink Cup, or is this something better saved for maybe a future cast? When you brought up the Hunter instead, it just triggered that.
This is news to me, but that could be huge for sure. The one thing, though, is that it would be beneficial to, like, everyone around him. It wouldn't be beneficial to him.
Well, yes.
If that makes sense. And I don't know... Yeah, I don't know. If it's on a 6-minute cooldown, you get to use it 2 or 3 times a game. It could be huge. I don't know. Yeah, I think it may be something we'll see develop once the patch actually hits.
All right, well, let's put a feather.
There's something there.
Let's put a feather in that cap. I just wanted to bring that up because I saw it, and again, I apologize. I can't recall the person who brought that up on TI, but that is where I noticed. So you can see the thread over there if you want to check it out.
The thing for me right now is that I think one issue. Here's what it roots down to.
Mm-hmm.
People went Horde. There's more people that were playing Alliance that went Horde for the Twin Cup because they want to play Horde as their faction for the Twin Cup. And they feel like they have a racial advantage playing on Horde. Now, here's my thoughts on that. I think a lot of times, in a lot of situations, people don't actually think through why they're going Horde. They're just looking at, here's the top guilds that are on Horde. They're having success on Horde. We should go Horde to follow them and copy in their success.
Now, we were talking about something similar to this before the cast. And that was, there's a thread that was created on the official WoW forums where someone was basically complaining, Alliance wins every goddamn arena and every BG because every man for himself is so overpowered. And
oh my god, what was that? I mean,
that was the voice that I read that in. That was one of my more annoying conjures.
Gotta bring that one out a little bit more. Where did that come from?
But then a few posts down, there's an individual that I thought made one of the best points. There's something I had never thought of. And what he said was that as things are going, it's the best PvP players playing at the highest level are going to gravitate to what gives them that little bit of edge. Mm-hmm. Because that's going to make the difference when you're playing at the highest level. I mean, if you're playing with a bunch of people that are bad fucking ass at something, it's the little things that are going to make the difference.
Right.
It's not like you're just playing a casual game. It's like, oh, yeah, well, that dude did something cool and they got away with it. It's like you actually have to be on point, and those little things will matter. So when you're saying here, it's like you have the good people going over to Horde because in the 19 bracket it's a little bit different, and the Horde racials are a bit more beneficial, which I actually have questions about in regards to Night Elf and such.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to get to that later, by the way.
So you have, say, the top guilds, right? They're going Horde. And something that I know people have talked about it, and some people might not want to acknowledge it, but a lot of twinking is follow the leader, whether it's gearing, whether it's spec, whether it's, faction in this case. Mm-hmm. And so if you have the best people going Horde, it's only natural that the players that might be a ring or two below them recognize that. And they're like, oh shit, they know something that I don't know. Let's go over there and see what it is. Yeah. And so they're playing Horde. So all of a sudden you have, the top of the totem pole and, whatever the next ring on that pole is. And so we'll say those are the best of the best. And then you have, what's the Saxon terms? The betas?
Alpha, beta.
Yeah, like, so you have the
alpha
alphas
plus,
that go.
Alpha plus.
So the alpha plus and alphas go. Then the betas go. And then you are kind of left with other people that really, for various reasons, either like, I like my Alliance tune, they're not paying enough attention, they don't give enough fucks. Maybe the people they're playing with on Alliance, they just enjoy playing with. But you have sort of like a talent drain on Alliance, which is kind of rooted in one little thing that snowballs into something much larger that isn't really initially apparent.
For me, I'm going to address something that you brought up early on in your point, and that's that you just said that Horde probably has the better racials. Well, I would argue that.
Well, I was hoping you would, because like Night Elf, and we already brought up, I guess in this bracket.
Well, I think that that's just falling into the culmination, the trap that people are walking into right there. So they're like, from what you just said, like, because of blah blah blah, all these people are over there. Yeah, Horde's probably better. Looks like it's a better thing. What people are struggling to do right now is actually determine, is being on Horde better for what we want to accomplish in the Twin Cup with our team?
I like that.
Yes. No. And it sounds dumb at first because you're like, oh,
I don't think it sounds dumb at all.
Well, I just have to address that there's going to be people like, oh, this is just a scapegoat for people to play Alliance or to not question why people are playing certain factions. But in reality, hear this out because it makes sense. There's a lot of little variables that you can do in your comp right now. Whether you choose to run Double Hunter, whether you choose to run Hunter Warlock, Hunter Mage. There's a lot of different variables you could do. You could 2-heal, run 7 DPS. At the end of the day, you can mold your comp around what you want to do and how you want to get the edge and how your play style wants to allow your comp to play out. So, with that being said, Horde, if you go Horde, you're going to have a slight advantage at getting kills in midfield. You got some silences. You got instant war stomps. You got goblin jump to get in and out of position. On Alliance... Oh, and then... Well, hang on. Let me finish the Horde. And then you're also going to be more beneficial after stacks hit. Because after stacks, a lot of the racials on Alliance really don't matter anymore for quite a lot of classes. Especially, well, really your FCs, which control the positioning of everyone else. But, flip side here... You play Alliance and you're a team that's wanting to run Double Hunter, that's huge that you play Alliance, because if you're going to run Double Hunter, you are running, if both your Hunters are Worgen, that's a huge advantage for you. That's so much extra movement on your O&D game and the starter games for your Hunter positioning, and also breaking off to killing FCs. And also your Rogue, it's going to be better to either be Night Elf or Worgen to have that extra speed too. And it's going to be better for your FC to be Alliance because he's going to be able to have more opportunities to get out with that extra speed as Worgen. So the problem that I think people are facing right now... Oh, to finish this off too, while I think that it's important to have good O&D, have a good mid presence, there's a lot of things that happen in between transitions of caps, and guess what? Being Alliance is better. Is a lot better. It's a lot better for transitions.
Better, bro.
It's a lot better for transition play. It gives you opportunities for those quick caps after a quick cap happens. I'm so animated right now that I'm just saying like 12 words at once. It is great. It's great. But honestly, I don't think people actually break it down like that. And I think it's good to have someone sit here and break it down for you. There's reasons for playing Horde and there's reasons for playing Alliance. Like, if I'm playing a Horde and I'm running a Double Hunter team, yeah, you're not going to be hurting too bad for not having Worgen, but in my opinion, it's better for your O&D to be an Alliance. You got Nelf for your Rogue, Worgen for your Rogue if you want to go that route, and you got Worgen for both your FC and your Hunters. That's a lot of movement on the map right there. And some people will be like, well, we want to be Horde just because we like the Horde side of the map better. And I can also understand that argument too.
I can definitely understand that just from a cursory glance, how much... And I guess you would know better than everyone, so of course correct me if I'm mistaken, but it seems like as an FC Horde side, you're afforded certain options that Alliance is not.
Well, it kind of depends how you look at it, I would say.
Okay, well let's illuminate some of the things that Horde has that...
Well, here's my opinion. I think the Hunter Rogue defending Horde side has an easier time than a Hunter Rogue defending Alliance side. because you can have one of your DPS literally sit on top of tunnel, your hunter or your rogue, and float over to wherever the FC goes, and he can just jump over the fence at the end of the day if he goes that way. He could go up tunnel. If you're playing a line side, defending that's a little more tricky because you can't just go through the fence.
No. It's Carl Lewis couldn't even get over the Lions fence.
So, in my mind, yeah, you do have a little bit of an advantage there. But let's turn it around a little bit here and think from a different perspective. So let's say both flags get back to your base and you're running some sort of O&D, or you have your druid sitting on top of GY to prevent a mid push. Well, then that fence just becomes so much more valuable to you because you can literally force hunters and rogues to commit a certain way and you commit the other way based off where they go. And you can control their movement in that situation. So let's say you have a hunter coming up ramp and you're sitting on top of Horde GY, or on Alliance GY with your own flag, and there's some sort of midfield fight going on, but a hunter's breaking off, maybe there's a rogue nearby. Let's say that the hunter commits backside of the fence. So he's more on the base side, he's towards the base. Well, that gives you an easy out to go top of tunnel, maybe drop down if you feel necessary, or let's say vice versa. Let's say that the hunter's coming in front of fence. Well, you can go into base, and you're really forcing their movement there. So it kind of depends if you look at it that way. There's also some benefits for being on that side and controlling. Hey, if you're paying attention and you take advantage of that movement, you can get a pretty big jump start, because it's not like they can also jump over the fence. No one can get over the fence. So it's not like it's being restricted to classes or certain specs or anything like that. No, it's everyone's involved in that. Also with Alliance side too, I think it's easier to get top or mid-level tunnel than it is to get top of tunnel for Horde. The jump of going up, if that makes sense. So the jump,
I get what you're saying.
The jumps getting to mid-level for Tot, in my opinion, are a lot easier to do than the jumps going to top of tunnel for Horde.
But I think it kind of works both ways. If you're starting, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but this is just from my experience. If you're starting from the ground and you want to get to, say, top of tunnel Alliance, I think it is light years easier to do so.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to get to that sort of mid-section of Horde tunnel, I think that is easier to do as a Horde than it is as Alliance.
I'm not totally... What do you mean by that? That last point there.
So, like, say, you jump over the fence, you're on the top of tunnel, and there's that, secondary roof directly above tunnel. I think it's easier to get to that portion than it is as Alliance.
Fair enough. Yeah, I agree with you there.
So, I guess...
Depends where you are on the map.
Correct.
I can agree with that. Because you literally can just walk down. You actually don't have to physically jump.
It's like, I feel like you used to have to hit the tusk and then jump over, but now I feel like you just go, boop, and you're down there.
So for me, maps are going to have some sort of mental differences between the two, and you have to understand how to play them. I don't think it's make or break game-wise. And if that's the reason where you win or lose a game, then you've done other things wrong, in my opinion.
All right. Before we move on from racials, there's just one thing I need you to explain to me, and that is why the dwarf racial, given the... Well, I guess Fearless aren't going to be in the tournament, so it's not an issue. But given the strength of Wrens, why is dwarf not a sought-after racial? Is it because there's, I believe, a 30-second cooldown before you can use Trinket? Is there, just because, say, Night Elf or Human is just vastly superior? Like, just break it down for someone like me that's not really sure as to why those... Like, dwarf is just looked at as, yeah.
I think that Human's so much better, and it's going to be highlighted even more going into the Twin Cup with the introduction of the new trinkets coming out in 6.2.
That is a great point to make right there.
I think Human's great there for your frontline DPS. It's going to give them more stamina and that trinket as well too, and maybe a little more versatility if you want to go with that build. For me, the best if you're going to play Alliance, you want all the classes that you can have that are going to benefit from Worgen speed to be Worgen. Now, You probably want your frontline DPS to be human. You probably want them to just have an extra trinket because they're going to be slowed all game. It doesn't matter for them.
Hmm.
Your human or your healers in midfield could change between human, dwarf, or one of night elf. Night elf's a great racial too, especially for casters. But Alliance gives you the more defensive racials in my opinion, while Horde's offensive. And in
Hmm.
this meta, from a midfield standpoint, I think it's better to have the offensive racials for sure.
Well,
But the things that Alliance bring is they do allow for more map movement with Worgen and more map control there. And you can see especially too when an Alliance team gets a cap with their Druid, teams aren't afraid to send their Boomkin off with Worgen speed or their Hunter with Worgen speed to go get the next flag and start pushing the tempo of the game.
yeah. All right, I don't want to spend too much more time on racials, but I do want to address something that Muskie brought up in chat.
Yeah.
And that is, just a quote, also you can do certain jumps with Goblin you can't do with other races. And I understand that's something that works as far as pugs go, but in the Twink Cup, class, or in this case, race-specific jumps, are those going to be allowed?
I don't know. We submitted our opinion of the rules.
Oh,
On
is
the
this a good
12th.
way to move into the next annoyance, or are we going to...
Well, that's not really annoyance. I'm not annoyed
Alright.
by that.
Okay.
We submitted our rules by the 12th. They were supposed to come out the 15th, from my understanding, but they haven't come out yet, so we're waiting for the actual verdict for the rules.
All right, and I guess if you're deliberating on something as important as the rules to the cup, it's kind of understandable if you're taking a few extra hours.
I think that there still needs to be some clarity there, to be completely honest with you.
I agree.
Because if it's a jump that other races can't do, then yeah. I think that's... Well, I don't know. Depends.
All right, well,
That's a muddy spot there, and I don't actually know if I want to tackle that right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I just want to bring it up real quick, and
Yeah.
then let's move to the next one. So what is the next thing on the annoyance list?
The next thing right now on the annoyance list for me is that just the fact that when... how do I word this?
I cannot wait for you to fucking...
Well, it's kind of what we've been talking about. So what have we been talking about this whole time? We've been talking about how there's more people on Horde. People are going Horde for the Twin Cup. I feel like people are blindly... Not everyone, but there's some people out there that are blindly making their decision on race. Or on
There's a
which
few
faction to go.
sheeples out there.
But let's bring it back to a pug perspective, because
Okay.
I'm sitting here, I'm leading a team, I'm leading Harvest going into here, and there's been some individuals who have been giving me a lot of flack, like, oh, you used to be the leader of Alliance, and now you've come Horde, and now there's no one left, this is all your fault that Alliance is bad. I tell them, I'm like, well, that's unfortunate that you think that. If you want games to get better, by all means, make a group an Alliance. And that's one thing that's been really annoying me, is that people will say, if a team's going to go Horde because they want to have benefits for the tournament and they feel like they make a team decision, that's a team's decision. Great on them for making that decision. And at the end of the day, you have to respect that decision. If you're upset with how the quality of pugs are, go play on the faction that you feel wants to do better or you want to see improvement from. And at the end of the day, I sit here, and right now, I used to have 2 druids. I still have 2 druids. Both of them are on Horde right now. My second druid's not ready to be moved over to Alliance for many reasons, so I'm not going to bring him Alliance. He's not ready to be an Alliance. I don't want him there. It would be a waste of my money that I don't have right now to bring him Alliance. So, if you're sitting here finding yourself in this position too, and I think a lot of people are, I've been complaining about how Alliance is bad, but I've been queuing my mage the past week. I've been queuing a lot on my mage. I've been queuing my Windwalker monk on Alliance. I've been queuing on, classes that I can have an impact on. And that's a big asterisk there. Because those are 2 classes I just listed where I can have an impact on, but a lot of people cannot have an impact on. Like, I can have a huge impact on an Arcane Mage. I can have a huge impact on a Windwalker monk. But that's because I'm paying attention. I know what's going on. Those are not flavor classes, and while I bring that up, it is important to say that you should queue on something that you can have an impact on. Don't just sit there and be like, I'm going to queue a Prot Paladin and be Captain America. This is gonna be so great for the Alliance.
But dude, did you not just see Avengers of Ultron? It inspired me.
The inspiration. Did you actually see that yet?
I did. I actually did see that.
I did see that. We're gonna have to talk about that.
We will, but I don't know if this is the time
it's
or
not,
place. I
but-
feel like that's pre or post cast combo.
Yeah. It's upsetting though that for a community that can get together, make a Twin Cup, make all this promotion happen, get the hype around the tournament, get these war games going, get the pre-mates going, get all these guilds going, for someone to come to me and say that, which has happened, 2 or 3 people have come to me and pretty much said the exact same thing. I'm like, dude, fuck off. If you're upset with how it's happened, if you're upset with how the games are, by all means, you can tell me about it. But I don't give a shit if you think it's my fault that the games are happening, because you could be queuing an Alliance. And I actually think that 1 or 2 people...
Wait, I just want to... I want to understand something real quick. So you have people playing Horde, giving you shit for playing Horde while they're on your team.
It was... differed from person to person who was bringing the topic up.
But there are some people that were on your team.
That were on Horde that were yelling at me. Privately. Nothing was public, but...
No, I just... There are different levels of... Come on, dude, take a look in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's like... Your face needs to be, like, smashed up. Like, so you can see your breath on it. Like, come on, man.
And you know what? I gotta give props to the whole Team Rula movement. It's not really a guild or anything, but these guys are coming out and queuing now that there's people that... we need some sort of resistance on Alliance, so Rula's been stepping up, making a team. Getting that going, so when they're queuing, it is a little more competitive. And the problem here is that at the end of the day, it actually is annoying to me too. It's annoying to me that, you know, I want to have competitive games. I'm not yet in a position where I can bring my Druid Alliance, but I do have my Mage. I can play great on Mage. I'm a fantastic Mage. I know how to work Warsong, but
He voted for himself.
I did. I don't have any shame to that. I think, oh, you know what? We could talk about that, too, because I was really annoyed with what some people were saying there.
I think we should skip that, because we're just going to devolve into too much.
Yeah. The thing is that people need to, at the end of the day, queue on something that you can have an impact on. And everyone knows their own limits. You know, if you're a person that you want to come in and play a Flavor of the Month class, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to be pissed. At the end of the day, I would rather play a game where there's 5 Boomkins than there's 5 Rogues. Any day. Any day. 5 Boomkins, 5 Rogues. I'll take 5 Hunters over 5 Rogues. I don't care. It means that people are queuing on classes that are viable in a pug situation, and that encourages other people to queue classes that are viable in a pug situation. Lay it on. Go queue all the Flavor of the Month you want. If I have to do another fucking game with 5 Rogues that don't open for a whole game, and here I am on my Mage sitting in Shadow Meld. I've been even... Okay, here's what I do on... This is what I do on my Mage right now.
Okay.
I queue up, I get in a game. I don't care if I sit 10 minutes. It doesn't matter how long of a queue I'm sitting. I join a game. I decide if the game's worth staying in. If it's worth staying in, I put on full consumables. If it's not...
Consumables?
I put on my 6/6 food. I get my potions going. I get my elixirs going. If it's not worth it, I leave the game immediately because I'm playing a Mage. And if it looks like I can't have an impact with no healers, then I'm not going to stay the game. And some people... But, like, I don't make that decision, like, during the course of the game. I'll just do it at the start. I'll be like, alright, well, fuck this. I'm not going to play a Mage when there's 5 Rogues on my team and we don't have a single healer. Like, this is not worth it.
I got a few things I want to backtrack on, but just for what you're on right now, as far as, like, general annoyance... If you're looking at a game and you're like, I don't think this is something I'm going to want to be in 5 minutes from now, leave before the gauge drop.
Yeah.
Don't subject someone to the unholy hell that you know this game is going to be.
Yeah.
Once it's already started, let them get in and try and make a difference on their own and not get into a losing effort with no hope.
I was playing a game the other day. I'm going to give an anti shout out here because this pissed me off. So I was playing a game the other day, and I was going to leave. I was legitimately, like, had my /AFK ready to hit enter, and this guy was like, oh, yo, don't leave. Like, let's play this game out. I'm like, okay, for sure. Like, whatever. We played the game out. It went it went better than it should have for us, but we ended up losing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next game, the same person who asked me to stay leaves the game. I'm like, oh, huh, okay, Fancy. That's pretty ironic, Fancy, that you said that. And I messaged him as soon as he left. I'm like, so you're giving me shit about leaving the last game, and you leave this game 20 seconds after the gates.
Should I give him 2 fingers up here? All right, there we go.
All in good fun, but I gave him a lot of shit there for sure, and he couldn't say anything. He was just laughing. He didn't know what to say, it was like, see, and that goes full circle. I have more of an issue of people queuing classes that they think that they can have an impact on, and are shit players. And that sounds so elitist, but it is. There's certain classes that you can make work if you play really well and your composition supports that.
Mm-hmm.
But you could play, ask Nikosi about this. Nikosi could give you a rant on this too. You could play Ret. Nick does a great job on Ret. He's one of the best Rets in the bracket.
Sir Hodgington.
Yeah. I was pissed Foffington didn't get a monk mention. There were 2 monks on there that I had never even heard of in my life, and Sir Foffington didn't make the list. I was a little bit heartbroken. Anyways.
Alright, it doesn't even matter who he is, I guess, or she is. It's
Foffington?
Alright, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, we had Sir Hodgington and Sir Foffington, if you can't expect
Wait, you were Sir Foffington?
Yeah.
Oh, get the hell. See, you need to... Alright, we're not going to go down that road.
Anyways, you have a Ret that comes in a game, and if he's on a good team with the support around him, he has heals, there's an FC, there's some DPS, yeah, a good Ret can have a huge impact in those games. But let's change the tide here a little bit. Let's say what I was saying. Let's paint a picture here. Let's say a Ret's playing on a team with 5 rogues, no heals, and scrappy DPS, not even fully enchanted. What are you doing on a Ret? Like, Ret can't do anything. And even a good player, you take someone who's great at the class, great at the spec, they're not going to be able to do shit. You can't do shit on a class that doesn't give the full package. That's why, like, at the end of the day, I don't have an issue with people queuing with hunters. I don't have an issue with people queuing druids. I have an issue with people queuing feral druids specifically for obvious reasons, because I feel like every single spec of druid is OP enough, and then you play feral. Yeah, I have a little bit of an issue with that.
It's anyways, like I'm the T2000. I need to somehow upgrade that into something. It's like, just be Arnold Schwarzenegger as the old school model. It's badass enough on its own.
So for me, it's like, at one part, it's like, yeah, I want to encourage people that are confident and can understand the game and understand the meta to play, you know, maybe mid-tier, less viable choices if they feel like they can make it work. But at the end of the day, you don't want to encourage that, because guess what? Then half of the whole population is going to be like, I'm going to queue a Frost Mage today, or I'm going to queue my Prot Paladin. And then when you get into that game with 5 Prot Paladins throwing Avenger Shield, I can guarantee you the scared cat syndrome's coming out of me as soon as I join the game. Bam. / AFK, done. Enter. No remorse.
I love the fact you brought up that phrase, because it was one of my favorite ones you ever made. And that's an old podcast for you guys listening. Go back. I think it's in the 80s, maybe early 90s. But also, like, there seems to be, like, it's a difficult line that you have to walk, because you don't want a game that's, like, all ferals.
No.
And you don't want a game that's all rogues. But a game that has that one rogue can be much better for it. And now that you have everyone, say, going Horde, and all the good people going Horde, and I guess, like we were saying before, it's like the curse of the bracket has almost been the rogue population, and it's generally been Alliance side. Like, is there any... Like, we've talked about this for 2 years at this point. Is there any way to combat that?
Pugs? Queuing in?
Yeah. Like,
luck of the draw? Well, I think that...
it just get lucky and hope you only
get
those
I think that
two?
Blizzard's... You know, there's some sort of hidden thing that's been going on in WoD, and you can tell because the queues weren't working, and then queues were working, where they're trying to manage who's getting in games. There's definitely some sort of healer, DPS, to tank recognition going on, where people get in games.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a hard thing to balance out. Here's the thing. It works, the bracket's working best when people are playing 1 or 2 classes in particular. they're playing them consistently, and people can expect them to be playing the same classes.
Mm-hmm.
Where things start going south is when people are like, hey, I've had fun with this class, now I'm going to do this. And then people are like, well, I'm also going to queue something else because they're doing this. And so far, example, snowball effect. And then you have people where you get in a game where there's 4 Resto Druids, and you're like, wow, this is going to be so much fun. We have just 4 Resto Druid FCs. This is going to be such an enjoyable game for us.
Bonds, I feel like we should have named this cast the Sheeples.
Why? What is that?
Okay. Some people listening will get this. Some people won't, but continue. I'm sorry for interrupting.
I'm sorry, too, because that is an old-school quote that I did not get. Is it old school? It's bothering me.
I don't think it's that old school. No, okay. I'm just gonna leave it right there.
Okay.
Pick yourself back up.
Pick myself back up. It's annoying. It is a tough battle. At the end of the day, it's a tough battle. Because people want to try new classes. People want to try things out. People want to try playing different specs. But at the same time, if you don't... That's what people don't appreciate. And I'm going to, when you had Harvest going on Alliance, when you have Skill Ratio going on Horde, people don't appreciate the fact that, hey, these 2 guilds are really holding up their faction, and even though they're queuing Flavor of the Month classes, at least you know what classes and comps they're going to be running all the time. Cancer's going to queue a Priest, Pizza's going to queue a Druid, Ko's going to queue a Warrior, Curly's going to queue a Monk, Slick and Grizzle are going to queue Hunters. You know what classes they're going to play. Yeah. Harvest Lord's going to play Druid. Sorry About It's going to play Druid. Daddy's going to play Shaman. Skeezen's going to play Monk. Lucas is going to play Warrior. In that time, 2 or 3 months ago, you knew what the top guilds were going to be queuing into Pugs. And that at least lets people know, hey, what can I queue to build off of that? And that sounds like, part of that sounds ignorant, but at the end of the day, it's not, because now that we see that there's guilds lacking in Pugs, and there's people missing in Pugs, and there's guild representation missing, especially in Alliance too right now, you're seeing that people are just queuing random shit. Like, hey, I kind of fall into that right now. I'm kind of to blame. I'm queuing a fucking Arcane Mage. What does an Arcane Mage do at the end of the day when I could be queuing a Druid or a Hunter? It's tough, man. And you'll have people that'll just rip on guilds and people who are anti-guilds, anti-Skype call. But at the end of the day, think of how much good actually group queuing is for the bracket.
Well,
that's one thing that gets under my skin.
I want to say something that just bothers the living shit out of me.
Yeah.
And I completely understand how someone that generally solo queues, doesn't have really any friends to play with in a bracket, gets intensely annoyed at the fact that they queue into a 5-man, and those people happen to be in Skype playing. Those people are going to have such a huge advantage, it's insane. How the fuck ever?
How the fuck ever?
Are we playing a single-player game, or are we playing a game that's meant to be played with other people?
Yeah.
Why is it that someone that has a group of friends that enjoys talking with each other, God forbid they enjoy playing with each other, happens to decide to play together? Like, why is that so frowned upon? And for that person that jumps in there and is like, well, you're the scourge of the bracket, you're queuing with 2 people, 5 people, because they'll do all of them. I'm sure you've seen it, Buns. I've seen it in the multiple brackets that I've participated in. It's like, it is not that difficult for you to find several other people to jump in a Skype call with, to have a group with, and play some Warsong Gulch. Everyone that you see in the level 19 bracket is there for one reason. If they happen to be in a Warsong Gulch. Buns, guess what that reason is?
Competition.
I would actually say no to that. Oh. It's to play Warsong Gulch. But competition,
okay,
yes.
I took you the wrong way.
But yes, but competition to varying degrees.
Okay.
And it's like, I think it's very unfair that when people label, like, oh, that person's just there to steamroll, or that person switched factions just for this or just for that. Mm-hmm. And even more so with the Twink Cup coming up, with which we talked about earlier, it's like, there's a legit tournament on the line. There is a legitimate sum of money on the line. And it's going to alter the way games are played, and it's going to alter who plays what during said games.
Yeah.
And if everyone's going to adopt sort of that sheeple attitude we talked about earlier and just head over to Horde, you can't be angry at the people leading the pack. What you really should be angry at are the people following.
Hey man, I'm right there with you. It bothers me a lot. At the end of the day, my whole attitude is that if you don't like what's going on, make an impact, make a difference. There's a
Yeah,
difference.
it's like
Yeah, you can. To some point, it's like, yeah, you can take it to the forums, but if you're only taking it to the forums, it's like, oh my, you are just filth to me. Filth, filth, filth. Useless, useless. Ugh. Make an impact where it actually counts.
no,
Actions
and you
speak
know what,
louder than
Buns?
words.
It's like, how did you come to the point where people say, "Well, HB, you're doing this, and that has an effect on the bracket"? Did you just wake up one day and you like decided things for the bracket, or did you
What?
wake up one? All right, let me rephrase that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did you wake up one day and just be like, "All right, I'm gonna go Horde, and that's gonna have an effect on the bracket as a whole"? Or was it an ongoing process where you put in a lot of work, you built a team, you made some friends, you worked with people, and that made a difference? Whereas other people are just like, well, you should just stay over here, man. It's like, well, no, we have things to do.
Well, yeah, it's just the whole. We thought at the end of the day it's going to be better for our team, it's going to be better for our synergy, for the reasons how we want to build our team to be better on
Mhm.
board. And at the end of the day, hey man, Twin Cup is where it is. That's where it's at. That's where our
No,
focus
that is
is.
that
And that's
is
where the
where the
bracket
bracket
focus is. So,
And for people on Alliance that are, like, say, giving you shit, obviously I'm going to defend you a little more than most people, but I also don't think you need defense in this. I think the people that are giving you shit should think about what they are not doing and think about what they can do.
yeah, that's where I'm at. And I also don't want to sound like, hey, I'm also, I recognize that. Actually, I don't want to go down that path. I understand
Because I
that.
might have just been about to run down that where it's like, but then again, you're a community later and you should be there doing things. But
No, no, no. It wasn't. It wasn't a bad thing. I was just. I guess what I was. Long story short, is I was gonna say that. Just if you see something going on that you don't like, it just surprises me how often there's people that will rather just talk about it than have an impact. And I'm happy because I feel like at least some of the people that I had these conversations with are starting to have an impact. And I also at the same time, it's one thing that's been bothering me. It's why I've been kind of bored of 19s recently. Is that the game quality's gone down. So, I'm looking to play more Alliance right now because it'll make the games better. It's a full circle thing. Everyone's involved. Everyone has an impact, but it's just ignorant to put the blame all on one person or one group of players. When at the end of the day, you play in a small community bracket, it's not hard to make an impact.
Well, and also it's like it's ignorant for them to just blame it on one person. But again, since it's such a small community, one person such as yourself or say Pizza or whatever guild leader can have such a dynamic effect on the overall feel and I don't know, general going ons day to day of the bracket.
Going on. All right. Well, I'm not going to be satisfied until these start. These, hopefully we start taking a turn here for the better. And we get a little more balance going on. That'll make me feel better because right now I have a headache with how the bracket is a little bit.
We're generally
I just
annoyed,
feel
man. It
that
happens.
There's, the whole thing we just ranted about pogs and faction balance and why people are playing factions. I think we've nailed that to a crisp where that needs to get better and people need to take action if we want to get that. This is kind of a side note, and I kind of want to end this. This is kind of like my upset annoyance bow here that needs to be like added onto this. So
It's your anger-written, flame-soaked bow.
my upset like flaming bow of the week is that okay. I think that we've done a great job, and I always give props to the community because I think we did a great job of getting the word out about the Twin Cup. Some people more than others, but recently it's some people more than others. Step up. We are a month and a half away from the Twin Cup, and if you're not out there
I can't
promoting the
even believe it's
forums,
only a month and a half away. I
yeah.
feel like it was yesterday. We were like, oh, in 6 months.
I'm gonna start naming people soon if we don't have some turnarounds here, because the forums have been dry, and I don't mean just Twink info, because that's not where we're getting the big publicity. It's not hard to go on the WoW forums and bump the WoW thread. Bump the WoW
And
thread.
also,
And we
I
have-
know I dropped the ball I didn't mean to drop a couple casts ago. A lot of what happens from maybe third or even first party, as far as support for the Twink Cup goes, is 100% dependent upon how our community spreads the word, treats, and reacts to the Twink Cup. And
yeah.
I'm saying that kind of aloofly, in an aloof manner, and I kind of mean it to be. But believe me when I say it is very important, and it will have a significant impact if we spread it Twitter and keep the official forum bumped, TI bumped. Well, I actually guess TI not as much because
No,
I don't
it's
think
not
Blizzard
TI.
checks that
But the
out.
thread
But
that people need to be looking for, there's a thread that Pizza Man on Twink Info it gives you links to every other forum site. And that's where people need to step up. Go to that thread on Twink Info. It's like, promote the Twink Cup 2015. Hit the WoW thread. That's huge. That's the biggest one. There's an MMO champ thread. There's an Arena Junkie thread. There maybe isn't like a Reddit thread. There's just threads all over the place that are on other venues. Those are the threads that need bumps. And right now, you literally have 2 people from the community keeping them afloat. I can name them. I don't have to. You know who they are. Help
and
us
also,
out.
I would like someone besides myself and HB doing the hashtag Twink Cup on Twitter, because if you don't think Twitter is the primary source
is.
of how things happen nowadays, you're kind of mistaken in a very real way.
Okay, that's my unhappy bow. Tie it up.
All right, did we get
Make some moves. Actions speak louder than words. Except for the forums. Just go fucking talk your mouths off. I don't care. Thank you. Hashtag
right.
Twink Cup.
Wait, Buns, how I thought we were going to end this a little bit differently today. What's your new segment?
Okay. All right, guys. So we're gonna come at you with some juicy tracks of the week. Now we decided Yubi brought it up. We're each gonna give you a track to listen to that we like. All right. And I think this is great because my music taste fluctuates week to week. So, Logic, great rapper. Look up Dead Presidents 3. It's a take off a Lupe Fiasco song. Kills it. Kills it.
All right, well, I was going to go hip-hop because that's kind of, well, one of my 2 favorite genres. But since you killed that with the Logic, I'm going to go punk. And I'm going to go Bad Religion, American Jesus. So that should hopefully hit both ends of our listener/viewership spectrum. Bun said a lot of the social, but let's just clear it up with bisnation.net, at bisnation on Twitter, the bisnation on the tubes to the U. Buns, did you give your tweets out?
Twitch.tv/fearthebuns. Twitter @fearthebuns. Follow it up on the channel and the tweeter. I expect big things, community. We're a month and a half out. Reel it in. The shark is waiting. Reel in.
Cheers. Cheers, Twonks.